On the same day the city of Fresno declared June 18th Black Lives Matter Day, the council voted to ban the chokehold move known as the carotid restraint. Police Chief Andy Hall said the move would be temporarily banned unless the officer needed to use it in self-defense. And we say hello again to our panel, Nelson Esparza and Steve Brandow. All right, guys, I want to start here because we talked about the chokehold ban that was voted on by the city council, and Chief Andy Hall really hesitant to ban the carotid restraint completely, saying he'd rather have an officer use that rather than shoot the suspect. Nelson, I'll start with you. Is he right in not getting rid of it completely when it comes to saving a life?
You know, listen, when it comes to police reform, when it comes to anything to do with our officers, of course, we're going to take the chief's sort of opinion and his expertise into account. But what we got to remember here is that, you know, law enforcement is a function of our government and the legislators like myself and Steve who make the law. And those laws are passed in great, part based on the values of the people that we represent. What we're seeing here throughout our nation is just a shift in values, right? And that's going to translate into the laws that govern our nation and govern our community. So I think that's what you saw here, with just a shift in values, and that was almost immediately reflected based on what's going on.
Steve, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I tend to follow what the chief of police is saying. I would not want to remove that tool from them permanently to be able to use that in extreme circumstances. I do believe there probably needs to be some training as to when those circumstances occur, but I wouldn't want to completely take it off the table. There might be a day where that could save an officer's life, and I think it needs to be available to them. Do I want to see less chokeholds? Definitely.
I want to move on to this. It was a conversation I had with Shante Davies Balch, and we were talking about the racial slurs and the death threats that have invaded the council's Zoom meetings this week. And Councilman Esparza, you know very well what I'm talking about here. We've heard the N-word several times, and then the death threat as well. But what was missing in the Zoom versus City Council, where you guys meet in person, there wasn't really a vetting process to keep something like this from happening. How big of a mistake was that maybe for City Council? And then number two, are we looking to get the FBI involved here? That's what many of us are hoping.
Yeah, Alexandre. So, I mean, I think as the meetings progressed, there were different measures put into place with the Zoom settings to tighten it and prevent some of those instances. But what it's come to is exactly what could possibly happen in person, right? If somebody just wants to walk in, watch the meeting, come up for public comment, and then just, have an outburst, I mean, that theoretically could happen in real life, in person as well. I think what happened here was just, I mean, it made me sick to my stomach, someone who has experienced these types of comments throughout my life. But really what disturbed me the most was the audience and all the folks who came out to speak in public comment having to endure that as well.
Steve, I know that the supervisors, they haven't closed down their building, and you guys have been having your meetings pretty much in the open there. What's your response to this?
Well, in our reality, our meetings have, until recently, have been closed to the public coming in to the board chambers. But they have been able to make their comments known through emails and phone calls. So all of that stuff gets entered into the record. We see it as the supervisors. But we have never stopped. We have not shifted to the Zoom meeting model. Look, I take a lot of Zoom meetings, but the actual board meeting has not gone to the Zoom meeting model. And I think what the city council has just experienced is there's some limitations to Zoom. And it's unfortunate. It's too bad they had to live through it very negative.
Yeah. And I would just say, Alexandre, that in spite of these limitations, which Steve is correct, I mean, we're committed at City Hall to, giving folks the opportunity to speak up. And so, my position was that despite these comments, we have to kind of power through and give those folks who really showed up to say something legitimate the opportunity to do that.
All right, guys, I want to get to this because it's important, and we know that the governor has put in a statewide mandate to wear the face mask. I know Steve Brandow has been on this show a few weeks ago and said he would never wear a mask. Well, guess what? Now that there is a state ordinance, and now Also, Nelson, you guys are thinking about putting in what is a complaint hotline to have those people call in to see who's not wearing a mask at what businesses. Is that the right thing to do?
I saw the fear in Steve's eyes when he heard about the hotline.
Yeah. Hey, Alexon, let me come clean. I have worn the mask more than the last time I was on your show.
Okay.
I've worn it several times going into retail businesses at different functions where really felt like it was necessary and the expectations were there. We do know that more departments for the County of Fresno, most recently the district attorney's offices, are going to be required to wear masks. Department heads can handle some of that. Inside of our board meeting, I don't think you should expect the supervisors to wear masks. We've got a social distancing program. We're more than 20 feet away from the public, and it's going to be difficult to hold that meeting with the mask on. But I do have 2 additional new masks. You're probably going to see more county folks wearing masks than ever.
Nelson, I want to get your thoughts though on this complaint hotline that you'll be pushing next week.
Sure. So the amendment that I introduced to our mask policy this past Thursday, it's based on what we know so far, what we learned about COVID-19, as well as around things that we don't know yet. It's very important that we all wear a mask. I appreciate Steve, getting to wear a mask and protecting those who are around him. The complaint hotline, it's a line for folks to call, either employees or customers who feel that they are being put in unsafe environments, right, as they're at work or as they're out shopping. And I want to be clear about the amendment that I introduced did not include any new provisions on enforcement.
Okay.
So, I mean, folks can already call City Hall and lodge these complaints, but here we're just making it so that you can call anonymously. And we can go and check out and see if there are egregious violations that are endangering the health.
We got to cut it there, and I'm anxious to see how that does play out. Councilman, Supervisor, we appreciate the time here on Sunday Morning Matters. Thank you, guys.